It is certainly a very exciting time to be a part of women's sports. And our esteemed panel is not new to the trend. They have been working towards these esteemed positions in women's sports their entire careers, and we're going to learn a little bit about them. I'm going to give a brief title for each of our panelists, but then I'm going to have them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about how you got to where you are. So first we have Brady Stewart, CEO of BayFC, the first National Women's Soccer League team in the Bay Area. We have Zaileen Janmohamed, President and CEO of the Bay Area Host Committee. We have Ohemaa Nyanin, who is the General Manager of the Golden State Valkyries. And we have Lindsay Barenz, is the President of the Oakland Roots and Soul, the USL men's and women's soccer teams in Oakland. So let's just go through and say a brief bit about your role and a short tidbit about how you got there.
All right, great. Hi, I'm Brady. I'm the CEO of BayFC. My role is to, and actually before I even go, I want to give a shout out to Sutter Health, who are our front of kid sponsors and here today. So thank you for everything you do. You are the most wonderful kid sponsors we could have asked for and helped us to really start our historic first season. So thank you for everything you do. Sorry, I had to say that. I'm thrilled to see them. So I'm the CEO of BayFC, and I am accountable for stewarding the vision of our founders. We were founded by 4 former U.S. women's national team players who had a dream to have a professional women's soccer team here in the Bay Area. And our goal is really no less than creating a global sports franchise. And you notice I didn't say a global women's sport franchise, right? We want to be in the same company as the Yankees, the Warriors, the 49ers, the great sports franchises here of San Francisco. We want to join them. And that's the dream. Now, we're only in our first season, so this is something that's also really important. We're trying to build something that's multi-generational. So a lot of what I think about in this, our first season, is when I'm at PayPal Park, which is where we play, I watch our fans come in for the games. It's my favorite thing to do, right when the gates open, to be there to welcome them. And I see a lot. Our fans are incredible. They're very diverse. They really represent the full spectrum of the Bay. But you do, of course, see the young children, boys and girls, with their parents coming into the game. And my dream, and it makes me a little emotional to talk about it, is that in 40 years, when I'm long gone, that those kids are there as grandparents with their kids and their grandkids, and they're telling the story, and the kids are like, "Oh, Grandma, we've heard this 1,000 times," where they say, "I was here the first season of BayFC, and I've loved the team ever since." So that we've got no less than a global sports franchise with multi-generational fan base. So that's the dream. I got here in a bit of a roundabout way. I do not have a sports background. I started my career in investment banking, management consulting. I went to business school. And then I actually spent the majority of my career here in San Francisco, around the corner at Levi's. I led our global direct-to-consumer business, which was Levi.com, Levi's stores, our business like with Amazon, so anywhere we sold online. And I loved it. I had a great time. But when the opportunity to start BayFC came up, I said, I have to be a part of this. It's not often in your life that you get a chance to really leave a legacy. And I think we have a chance to leave a legacy not just in the Bay Area, but in women's sports globally. And so that's what we're marching towards.
Good job, Brady.
Zaileen?
So hi, everyone. Zaileen Janmohamed, or just Z. I rarely respond to Zaileen anymore. Or hey, Mom works too sometimes. Good to see everyone. Thank you to the Bay Area Council and Sutter Health for having us here. What a great audience. What a great just reason for us to come together and talk about all of the amazing things that women are doing across all industries. I was here earlier and heard some of the panels and was very, very inspired by what I heard. So the Bay Area Host Committee, I will not be upset if people here don't know what the Bay Area Host Committee is, but I'm going to explain it to you, and there'll be a test before you leave tonight so that you can go and educate everybody else. The Bay Area Host Committee is essentially the sports commission for the Bay Area. And so our job is to bring major sporting events here into this wonderful region that we all live in, and to do that while also trying to establish a sustainable sports commission for the Bay. For those of you who don't know, we don't have a sustainable sports commission in the Bay. We haven't in the past. We've had an organization that bid for and won Super Bowl 50 back in 2016. They executed that event. They did very well. They folded as an organization, only to have it revive again in 2019 for the college football playoffs, folded again. And so there hasn't been a sports commission that traverses the Bay Area to bring major global sporting events to the Bay. And what happened a couple years ago was, following kind of what happened in the Bay around COVID and just everything that this region kind of went through, plus the build of SoFi Stadium down in LA, along with the fact that they do have a sustainable sports commission down in LA, I think caused a lot of people to have a little bit of concern in that we were fearful of losing big sporting events to our neighbors in the South and to other cities across the country. And so there was a few people that basically gathered together to establish a new version of the Bay Area Host Committee, and my job is to bring events, but also to help us sustain ourselves over the longer period of time. For those of you who are not aware, there are a variety of surveys around best cities to host sporting events. We are number 15, 16, 18, depending on the survey that you read. That sucks for me. We are too good of a region, too diverse of a region, too great from an economic perspective to be at least not within the top, I want to be in the top 5, at least. And so there's some work to do. This is not an easy market to kind of figure out. There's 9 different counties. It's expensive to do business here. We hadn't had a sustainable sports commission. People didn't know how to actually bring those events into the Bay. And so our job is actually to make that easier. And we have been successful. We have 3 major sporting events coming to the Bay Area in the next 18 months. Somebody asked me just earlier if I sleep. I don't do a lot of sleeping. So we have an NBA All-Star Game in February of 2025. We have Super Bowl 60 in February of 2026. And we have a FIFA World Cup coming the summer of the same year. I want people to think about this in two different kind of parts. The first is we won those events, right? Those are competitive processes with the NBA, the NFL, with FIFA. Many cities bid to host events like this. We won it. We won it because of who we are as part of a beautiful region, a diversity of people, the ability for these leagues to actually grow their sport, financially succeed in their sport because of the Fortune 500 companies that are based here. This is something that we should be really proud of doing because it is a very, very competitive process. So I ask a lot of people to kind of hold up their heads high, especially because of what we've gone through over the last 5 years, and realize that this is something we've won. The second thing I would say is we are the only region to ever host a Super Bowl and a World Cup in the same year, and likely will be the only region to ever host a Super Bowl and a World Cup in the same year. And that is daunting, for sure, but so exciting for us to be able to do. The eyes of the world are going to be on the Bay for an 18-month period. We are going to be the epicenter of sport, and I'm not even counting what all these guys are doing, right? That's just the events that are coming into the Bay. So it's time to get really, really excited. We'll talk a little bit about what we're doing, how we're trying to support each other up on the stage, but get ready, buckle up. It's gonna be really exciting. I didn't even talk about how I got here. I don't actually know. Someone said that this was a good idea, and I said, okay, let's do it. Now, I've spent 20 years in the sports industry. I'm born and raised Canadian. I played ice hockey like most Canadians did and do, and found my way to the US and worked at Major League Soccer, a couple of sports marketing agencies at Visa and their sponsorship group. And then my last job before this one was at LA28 with their organizing committee. And I was told that I should not be living in the Bay and working on events outside of the Bay. So people convinced me that I should start to work on events here. And so here I am.
We're lucky for it.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? We need a little bit more like,
Hey,
yeah,
let's go.
go.
Let's go.
My name is Ohemaa. I'm the general manager for the Golden State Valkyries, which I love this. I need all of this. So the Golden State Valkyries, the only WNBA team here in the Bay starting May 2025. Can't wait to see all of you guys here with me in the arena. 17,000 plus people have already put in season ticket deposits. Which is insane, because my job is to put together a championship-winning team, according to my wonderful owner, Mr. Joe Lacob, soon. So thank you for all of the support in advance. How I got here is a beautiful path of smiling, working really hard, and people investing in me. And every time I get the opportunity to sit on a panel with esteemed humans, I'm in shock because my parents are Ghanaian, emigrated to the United States. I was a walk-on at American University, so I'm an East Coast girly, transplant, going to be a West Coast girly, and worked at USA Basketball. I was the women's national team assistant director for 4 years. And then most recently, everybody will tune in on Friday to watch my former team, the New York Liberty, the #1 team in the WNBA now, play against the Las Vegas Aces, ESPN, 6:30 p.m. And I was most recently the assistant general manager. So I've been super, super, super kind of like held by really cool people. And now I have the unreal job of being able to bring a championship to what is one of the best cities to host events and play sports.
Hi all, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Lindsay, I'm the president of Oakland Roots and Oakland Soul. Oakland Roots is our men's team and Oakland Soul is our women's team. We are a little bit different than your average professional sports team. We are a purpose-driven organization. Our purpose is to harness the magic of Oakland and the power of sport as a force for social good. And I work here because I believe sport has the power to influence positive social change. We see it all the time. We see people come together with a common interest and overcome barriers that separate us in other parts of our lives. We see what the national women's soccer team did for equal pay. We see what the Milwaukee Bucks did for Black Lives Matter when they shut down sports after George Floyd was murdered. You know, we see it all the time. These athletes have these incredibly expansive platforms, and they want to use them for good. And far, far too often, leagues and teams do nothing to support them. And then we see the history of pro sports in Oakland, and it's one of devastation, basically. We see these pro sports teams who have come and asked for support from the city and the county, and they have taken those dollars and they have used them to build equity in their club, and then they have moved away. And that is not what we want to do. So we were founded by a group of folks who are from Oakland, and they wanted to create a different kind of organization. And we are different in a lot of different ways, starting with our purpose. Every decision we make, we think about that purpose. How do we price our tickets so our games are accessible to as many members of our community as possible? What companies do we partner with, and are they values aligned? How do we build our roster? How do we hire? Who owns our team? So we are not owned by a billionaire, and we are not owned by a private equity firm. We are owned by 70 direct investors who have put over $40 million on our team. And last year, we did a community investment round where anyone could invest in our club for as little as $100. And we raised $3 million. Thank you. We raised $3 million from 5,000 people. And that means if there's upside to be had in this club, it's going to be shared. And that's why I work at this team. I am not a long-term sports executive. My background is I was a lawyer. I was a mergers and acquisitions lawyer in New York City for several years. I've worked in politics. I worked in the Obama administration. I've done a lot of activism work. And I started working in sports in 2018 after what happened in 2016, and I was worried about the direction of this country. And I wanted to have a job where I felt like I could use my skill set of deal making, being a lawyer, with my passion for social justice and equality and opportunity. And the time I was looking for that job, my instinct was to go back into politics, but you know, politics is soul crushing and very depressing. So I was like, there's got to be a different job where I can feel like I'm making a difference. And when I was doing that, an NWSL team was launched where I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it was the proverbial light bulb. I was like, oh, sports is the intersection of business and activism. And I've been working in sports ever since. I talked my way into a job basically at Real Salt Lake and Utah Royals. I spent some time at the NWSL League office. And now I'm here at the Oakland Roots. And this is the job I've been searching for my whole life. I love working here. It's such a privilege to represent this organization who's really trying to find a new pathway in pro sports, and especially in the East Bay.
Amazing. I'm not sure if we even need me. We just need these ladies to keep talking about their stories. This is incredible. But I think I'll start with Z, because you represent sort of an ecosystem that the other partners are a part of. Can you tell us, how do you see these different women's teams being part of supporting one another to build a thriving ecosystem of sports here in the Bay?
Yeah, I think I'll answer that question in a couple different ways. I think, first of all, I mean, we started this discussion by talking about the role of sport and what it does for young people as they come up through their lives and in their careers. And, you know, for me, it doesn't actually matter if it's women's sports or men's sports, as long as it's sport. And the more sport we have in a region, the better I think it is for the region, because of the economic impact, because of the societal impact, but most importantly because of the impact it has on youth. And so whenever a new team comes into the market, and I'm talking about all three of these up here, I think it's good for the entirety of the region. And then the follow-on effect of what it will do for girls and women as they experience sport, as they play sport, as they establish themselves in their careers, I think has a positive effect on all of us. So there's a top-line answer to that question of just more sport is better. And it's like seeing teams leave does so much harm, not even harm that we can see today, but harm that will come for years from now because of the follow-on effect that we're going to be losing out on when those teams go away. I think the second part of that question is the Bay Area Host Committee we're a not-for-profit organization. We're a 501c6. We will have a 501c3 umbrella. I have a couple of my team members here. We are not going to be big. We do the events that we do for the benefit of the region that we live in. We don't share in any of the revenues from the NFL or FIFA. I wish we did, but we don't share in any of the revenues that come with a Super Bowl or a FIFA World Cup. We don't make the money off the tickets, the merchandise, the broadcast right, nothing. None of that comes to the host committee. That being said, we have to find money to have those events actually. These are significant dollars. When you win a bid, you are paying for the stadiums that were being used. You're paying for all of the venues. You're paying for the public safety. You're paying for transportation and mobility planning. So these are tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that we have to find and raise. I won't go into that conversation. There's a lot in my head there. What I do want to say is, like, our team is never going to get that big. We are going to be 15 to 20 people max. Again, because of the not-for-profit status that we are in. And so I rely on all of these teams sitting in front of me. Brady and I were sitting upstairs, and I was unloading on all the things I need her to help me on. Lindsay is talking to our chief operating officer on how we make sure we establish a team base camp in Oakland. Like, I will rely on every single team here to help make these events happen. I will rely on the Bay Area Council. I rely on community organization. It will literally take a village to bring all of us together to have these events come here, and it should, because the benefit for all of us is when Brady feels like the World Cup has made her sport, her team, her employees, her fans better. So I need her help, yes, for now. I'm hoping that the give back and the ROI that comes back to her will be multiple fold in the long run. So if I haven't asked you for help yet.
She hasn't.
I've asked.
Y'all are the witnesses. She can't now. She already got her friends.
No, I got Jess. I've already asked Jess for help. She just hasn't passed on the message to you. So I'm asking you now.
Teammates.
Teammates.
Yeah.
It will take all of us to put these together.
I'm going to go to Ohemaa next. As you enter this incredibly exciting moment for the Bay Area and for WNBA, what excites you the very most about this journey?
People. You guys make the job fun. The job itself is hard. I think everybody can attest to not sleeping, trying to put together the best product to make sure that the fans have a purpose to ride behind. But what excites me most is the storytelling that I'm going to hear from our fans, being able to create community here. I've lived in 5 different countries, so San Francisco is another foreign city for me. And I'm just really excited because I have not yet announced a coach. Expansion draft is December 6th. Free agency begins February 1st. The last thing is college draft is mid-April. And there are a lot of people who know me, don't know me, or just smile, give me a high five or like a little wink because they know that I'm probably not in the mood to have a conversation with somebody, but they just want to say that they're like really excited for this product. And I appreciate that. I think the excitement behind being able to sit next to powerhouse women, people who have strived to get to the places where they are right now, that are going to share their knowledge with me. I think basketball is universal, but so is soccer, football, soccer. Bilingual, yep. It's very inclusive, and the inclusivity of the Bay Area in general is going to lean into what our players are about to do on court next season.
So speaking of the Bay Area and inclusivity in innovation, we are curious if there are innovations, whether it's technology, fan experience, or business, that you see coming to the sports world. And we'll start with Brady.
Oh, great. So I'm going to say this, and it is so true, and it's also kind of like the most obvious answer, but maybe sometime it's like what Occam's razor, right? The most obvious is true. Artificial intelligence is transforming the character of the Bay Area already, and it will transform just like every industry sports as well. So it's something that our team is thinking about. How do we continue to innovate while taking advantage of being in the seat of this incredible business revolution that's happening? And I think you can really use AI kind of for good in sports, because for every sports team, what we're intending to do is to build really personal connections with all of our fans. So our fans know that, hey, BayFC or the Valkyries or the Roots, like they know who I am and they care about me, and I have a ongoing communication with them. Now that's hard to scale when you have hundreds of thousands of fans, right? But AI allows us to take what we know about our fans and have personal conversations with them and personalized content for them. Like, I will tell you, our players would like to send out personal video messages to all our season ticket members. Well, we have thousands of them. So you can scale that really easily with AI technology, and it feels personal because it is personal with the personal intent. So and by the way, it's already happening in sports. It's here. It's not just coming, it is here, but that is a big phase of innovation that will allow us to deepen and make our fan connections more meaningful, which is really all we're about. And I think the other thing is storytelling, right? We've already talked a little bit about that up here, but specific to, I have like a long-standing theory. This is way before I was in the sports industry, but like maybe 20 years ago, I was talking with my husband, and I was reading a trashy magazine, and he was like, "Why are you reading that?" And I said, "Well, because it's interesting and fun." He said, "But you don't even know any of those people." And I was like, "Whoa, buddy, I'm here to tell you everything you read about sports, it's the equivalent for you. Sports is that. It's you want to hear about these players. You want this, you want that. And we all know that about all the male players, but we don't know the really cool stories of the female players just yet. So we need to have it when everyone comes to PayPal or Chase Center or in Oakland, like that the fans are like, "Oh my God, look at Ohemaa today. She was amazing. It's probably because I saw her at the farmer's market." Like, so we need these storytelling opportunities to really deepen so that people feel the connection with our players and elevate and build them up.
Anyone else on the panel?
Yeah, what I'll say is we think about technology and innovation as almost two separate things. And so from a technology perspective, especially as it relates to the FIFA World Cup when it gets here in the summer of 2026, you have to think about the fans who come into the Bay Area. They're likely going to be fans that are crazy soccer fans, because that's what happens, but also fans that are going to follow their team around the country, right? There's 11 host cities in the United States, another 5 between Mexico and Canada, and so people tend to follow their team. When they come into the Bay, they're gonna have a mindset of like, "Oh my God, I'm going to the Bay Area, this is Silicon Valley, and my mind is about to be blown." They should have that expectation. That's who we are. And so my job is to figure out how to do that. And it's almost a responsibility for us as a team to think about what that fan journey looks like as soon as that fan gets off their flight in Oakland, in San Jose, in San Francisco, and figure out how we are going to meet that expectation in their brain and what that full fan experience is going to look like, likely using technology. That can be AI-driven, it can be a random robot, it can be driverless cars, it can be those things. It can also be things that we don't yet do well in the Bay, i.e., when you get off, when you're trying to use mass transit and you're trying to connect two trains, 2 different systems, how does that happen really efficiently? How do we make that a really compelling experience, right? And listen, I'm talking to the transportation agencies right now. Some of them are in the room. We are working on things like that. That's what these events actually allow us to do, is give them a platform to make some change. So that's technology. For me, innovation is something related, but can be completely different. We're innovating every day at the Bay Area Host Committee. We're thinking about legacy in new ways. We presented a plan, that's my phone, also on technology, sorry. We introduced a plan with the NFL a few weeks ago around workforce development and financial mobility. And we said, when you bring an event into the Bay Area, we want to do it differently. We want the people of the Bay to benefit differently. And they looked at us as they heard our presentation and they were like, "No one has ever said this to us before. No one has come to us with this type of plan." That's innovation, right? Doing things differently is innovation. And my job is to hopefully get some of these leagues that do this every year, again and again, governing bodies, to say, hey, why not do it a different way where the local market actually benefits in a completely different way that is specific to that market. So we're thinking about it separately. Sometimes they're related, but it's part of our everyday conversation.
I'd just like to build on that concept of like different kinds of innovation. Women's sports should be an absolute hotbed of experimentation and innovation. And one thing that drives me absolutely crazy about the conversation around women's sports is, when is it going to be as big as men's sports? When is it going to make as much money as men's sports? When are you going to have as many teams as? Who gives a shit? Ignore all of that.
Amen.
Make it bigger, make it better, make it more impactful. And I think you're seeing some really interesting ways in which people are figuring out new ways to make money with their teams. You know, kudos to the players of the NWSL for getting rid of the draft. No other sports league in our country has gotten rid of the draft. That's a major innovation. Kudos to the Super League, the new professional women's soccer league, for adopting an international schedule. In soccer around the world, they play August to December, they take a winter break, they resume in February, they play to June. In the United States of America, for some reason, we don't follow that schedule. We do March to November. The Super League said, let's try the international schedule. So in Oakland, when Seoul goes pro, we're gonna have soccer year-round. We're gonna be one of the only markets in the entire country with year-round professional men's and women's soccer. That's gonna be a huge market advantage for us. So I think we just need to get a lot more creative and stop putting ourselves in the box of men's sports and thinking that's some standard we need to achieve and strive for. Like, let's ignore those standards and let's think more creatively about how we can make sports better.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll add is the panel before us talked about health and women's health. So for elite athletes, female elite athletes, there's not a lot of research being done on preventative care, post-injury care. And so we have started, I unfortunately have opened Pandora's box as to figuring out how we can create the most safe space, both mentally and physically, for each of our athletes to come, which is a competitive advantage that's in sport in general. And so can't wait to see what somebody else in this audience has to tell me about that. See, new friend.
I do have one other thing to add on this, which is, I think for women's sports, there's this really like false dichotomy that is created. It's a little bit like how business used to be, where like if there was one female VP, it was like, well, we're done. We kind of did it, right? Because I get asked the craziest questions like, oh, well, is BayFC doomed because the Valkyries are coming? You know, oh, well, I mean, I guess the roots and the soul are there, so can BayFC exist? And I'm like, wait, nobody's asking the A's and the Giants. Or nobody goes to the 49ers and like, well, the Warriors are successful. Are you out of business? Like, there's room for many. There is always room for more. It's not like, well, we had one successful one, we're done, right? Like, there's room for it all. We need to support it all. We're all here supporting each other because we all want all of us to win. And it's totally, that is the future, in my opinion.
Well said. Well, knowing we have some students in the room and other of us who are looking towards our career journey with admiration for you, I wonder if you all would share maybe a moment, Lindsay, maybe we could start with you, a moment that was really challenging in your career and maybe how you shaped the way you lead today.
Happy to. So I, as I mentioned, am a lateral into sports, and my last job before this job was with the Washington Spirit. And the Washington Spirit is an NWSL team in Washington, D.C. And all we did was talk about how much we wanted to support women and girls in that organization. Every day, that's what we were doing. We were out in the community talking about women and girls. And the owner of that team went out and signed a defense contractor as our jersey front partner. And I had spent 6 months telling him, you cannot do that. Our fans will be livid. It is hypocritical to position ourselves in this community as prioritizing the welfare of women and girls and then putting in our number one corporate partner position a defense contractor. And after we made that announcement, as expected, we got lit up. And I was the president of business operations there, and I just felt like I couldn't let this moment pass without doing something about it. And I didn't want to, throw gasoline on a fire, but I did want to acknowledge to all of our fans who were saying these things, I hear you. So I went through and I collected all of their social media messages, and I just liked them. And I sent them, and I put them in an email to the owner, and the next day he called me and fired me. And ultimately, he had to sell that team because he was not a good steward of it. And I wear that with a huge badge of honor.
Can I skip and go to the... Go you. I love that. Yeah. How I look at obstacles are experiences for me. I've been told no countless times. So when I get asked this question, it's kind of like, thank God I have the best parents ever that looked at me and said, what did you learn from the no? And then how can you move forward? And so without, talking about all the no's, I think I will talk about the yes, which is being kind of behind the scenes for the majority of my career in sport. I've done it for a decade now. Went to school for all the things, not sports, as well. Joe Lacob saw me. When I tell you at my press conference, he said my name, and all my people were like, they knew who you were? I didn't know that they knew who I was either. So just a testament of like, it's okay to allow yourself to step out in the spotlight, regardless of what other people are saying to you, because one day somebody will say yes, and when they say yes, they'll say yes in a big way.
I'll do a couple stories that are related. The first is I am, born to two East African parents, and my grandparents are Indian, and in a family where, girls don't play a lot of sports. They definitely don't play ice hockey, and forget the external stereotypes of women and girls, kind of the pressures on us to work in industries that maybe are not typical. I had my own internal stereotypes within my own family of wanting to play. And I don't know, there must have been something in me at a very young age that was a little bit rebellious. If you guys have watched the movie Bend It Like Beckham, that was basically me. I hid hockey skates outside. I went to go sneak out and play, and at some point, obviously my parents figured it out, and there was a persistence and an understanding of who I was as a person. And fast forward to my last job at LA28. I was responsible for developing new monetization platforms across the ecosystem of Olympic and Paralympic athletes, and I put together basically a technology solution to allow Olympic and Paralympic athletes to make money, small dollars, but dollars through technology in a way that never had been done before. there was a lot of resistance to this because, again, people felt like there's only $1 in the ecosystem, and if that $1 doesn't go to the national governing body or to the organizing committee, then everyone was going to lose. So I had a lot of pushback of trying to put this new thing into the marketplace that I, in my heart, knew was right. And again, it's like it's the persistence to be okay with change and to do something differently, even when everybody else is saying, I don't think that can happen. I don't think that that's right. It hasn't been done that way before. Who are you to change the way that we've always done things? That's been my learning. You know, it happens to me almost every day. I had a call yesterday where I presented something and people were like, Ma, I don't know if that's right. Now, there has to be, you have to listen, right? There was a panel before where there is a humility that you need. You need to listen to what people are saying. There's good feedback and reasoning for why people are saying things. But at some point, you also have to be bullish, and you have to trust yourself, and you have to assume that you know. And for me, it's been finding the balance of when is okay to push and when is okay to trust my gut and move forward and just say, I know. I'm going to assume that I know, and when do I actually have to sit back and say, okay, hold on. What do I need to listen to? So that's been the learning for me, and I think I feel like I'm still learning. But it's been something that I have to remind myself that I belong in the room, and I am going to assume that I know until I hear a good reason to tell me that I don't.
Well, first, I guess since we have some students here, I think the most important thing to say is failure is not unusual, nor is it like unique to any one person, right? We all fail. We all fail hard. We take the punches and we roll with it. And it's like it's an aphorism, it's a truism that those are the moments that you learn the most from. But it's so true because it's so true, right? Like those moments when you sort of can't believe this terrible thing is happening that you've maybe caused yourself. Those are the moments that you grow the most from. And I know everyone says that, but I think it's important to hear and really live with. I mean, I will say I have made like really dumb business decisions really brashly and with a lot of confidence, and then had to endure the consequence of those. I think a learning experience for me has been actually over the last 16 months in this role. It's a new role for me. I'm a first-time CEO. It's a new industry, hadn't been in sports. It's a new stage of company. I was literally employee number 1 last June, and we had to field a team by March. So it was new in every dimension, and it was really tough. And I went in with so much excitement. This is and was my dream job, but I think I embraced it with a lot of naivete of just like the degree of change I was taking on. And I think I was just looking at all the fun, exciting things and not realizing like, oh my God, I've got to get my employees health insurance. Oh, I don't know how to do that. And so, I kind of went, it's really hard. I kind of went through about a year of just not, I'm a great sleeper historically, just a year of not sleeping, that feeling in your stomach, the feeling in your shoulders of like, what have I done? But it's kind of recently, actually in the last month or so, I've started to feel the like sense of calm coming back, and this like, holy crap, I did it. I got through it, and it's awesome. But it's because it was so hard. So that's what's to remember.
Well, I am confident that this is a room full of fans and new fans, not just for your teams, but for all of you. Let's give our panel a big hand. And let's all support these teams when it's time to buy tickets.